Reptile lovers. So today I thought that I would do a video that strays from my usual content, and I'm going to do a video about my little pride and joy. This is Zeus. Obviously he is a bearded dragon. Say hello to the camera. And so, usually my content is about art and the reborn dolls I make. And I have put Zeus in a couple videos just because he likes to hang out with me a lot, so he's been there in a couple videos just merely because he was there at the time. And I've noticed a couple people say that he was cute, and I thought today I would share his story of how we got him and his pretty sad backstory to how he got here to us. Now, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit because it's nothing like, those awful stories like how people get a rescue reptile and they're like in awful shape and they're like rotting. It's nothing like that, but I still think it's really sad. So maybe this video is a little clickbaity, maybe a little, but so Zeus is probably about 3 to 4 years old. We're not 100% sure. So, he's not a baby, obviously. He's pretty much full size. And we got him from a family friend who couldn't really afford, or she couldn't really afford to keep him anymore, and they didn't really have the time to spend with him that he was needing. So they knew that we took in our ball python, which is right next to me, in her cage, obviously. We took her in, and they knew that, and they knew that I was into reptiles and amphibians and fish, so they thought that we would be a good home for him. We didn't really know what we were doing when we first got him because we hadn't had a bearded dragon before, nor have we had anything like him yet, because they're obviously very different from a snake. And so he came to us in a cage, and it was kind of small for him, but nothing atrocious. It wasn't like he was like crammed in a corner or anything. And he seemed really dejected. Like all he did was really lie there. He didn't really show any interest in anything. He, he didn't have that, beardy personality that everyone talks about. He was just kind of lethargic, and food wasn't the problem. He was eating good, and the lady that we got him from said that he was eating good, and then she told us his sad story. And Zeus, they had him, I'm not sure if they had him from a baby or not, but they had him, and they had a female beardie. And long story short, Zeusy and the other beardie, they fell in love, and these guys mate for life. So, they bred them, and they were mated, and they stayed in the same tank and everything. And unfortunately, after a very long time, Zeus's mate passed away. Oh, he's looking at me. Oh, I know it's just a coincidence, but I swear to God, it's breaking my heart. And so, as I said, bearded dragons mate for life. And this lady that we got him from said that after his mate passed away, he became very secluded. He didn't want to come out anymore. He became very lethargic, just had no interest in anything. So, I know that people probably don't think that a bearded dragon has that sort of capacity, but it sounds like, he was heartbroken. His mate wasn't there anymore, and maybe he didn't really understand why that she was gone all of a sudden. So his only friend was gone, and, they didn't really have time to, pick him up and cuddle him all the time and try and make him happier. And he just got sadder and sadder, and eventually he came to us. and after finding out that story, I don't know, it just broke my heart to think that, he can't, like we look at him like he's this little baby, this cute little baby, but then I remember that, he's actually an adult, and he's had babies of his own, and he's a widower. And, I don't know if bearded dragons have that sort of long-term memory, but sometimes I wonder if he can remember his mate, and if he still misses her somehow. Oh, he wants to go. Hey, do you want to go? Yeah, he wants to explore. And, it took us a long time to form this bond we have now, and at first he didn't want to come out and be cuddled and run around. All he wanted to do was just sort of lay there on his log, and it makes me feel sad to think about, like, how our relationship started off. Like, I wasn't really too thrilled about him in the beginning because he didn't really do much. But after, we started taking him out, and my mom started to take him out, and she would just sit there and cuddle with him, and he would just lie there on her shoulder. And eventually he started to perk up a little bit more, and that's when we started noticing that he has a personality. And then he started doing the cutest thing in the world. When we were cuddling with him, we would try to move him, and then he'd do this thing. He'd do this little wiggle wiggle. And it was sort of like him saying, no, don't move me. I'm comfy, don't move me. And then he would start to freak out when we tried to move him, like he was saying, no, I like it there, keep me there. And then he would start to, I don't know if this is an official term in the beardy community or not, but we call it glass surfing, where he goes to the edge of his tank, and he'll, like, scratch, just run alongside of his tank, scratching at the sides, and he started to show a real, desire to come out and be with us, and now it's a daily thing. Like, he cannot stay in his cage, which might not be the best thing for him, because, he needs his lights, so we have to, like, force him to go back to get his lights, and obviously we need to put him in there to get his, main food source, because we can't have bugs flying around our house, or, hopping around our house. But, he's part of the family now, and I wonder if, if he sees us that way, if, he views us as just part of his pack, or whatever you call a group of bearded dragons. If, in a way, if we sort of not replaced, but filled that gap of love that he was missing from his mate that died. Because, some people may say it's a coincidence, but to me, I see that he very much seeks out the love from us. He's not just, sitting there because we put him there. He'll actually come up to us and crawl up on us to get the cuddles, and I actually have a great picture of that. One morning I was sitting there in bed with him, and all of a sudden he was on my bed, sitting beside me, and all of a sudden he crawls up and onto my shoulder and just lies down on my shoulder. And I feel like, it's too much of a coincidence for him to just be doing it just because it's a place to sit, or because it's warm. If there's anything that I've learned from having reptiles, especially Zeus, is that despite them being all scaly and everything, and, believe it or not, they're not slimy. Snakes are not slimy. Beardies are not slimy. They're scaly. They're dry. And, this tangent. Blah. Squirrel! Anyway, so, despite the fact that they're cold-blooded and they don't look the most, cuddly animals, they deserve love too. And, not every beardie is like this, but if they're raised the way Zeus was, they are like the most cuddly animal in the world. He loves cuddles. Here he is. I wonder if he'll let me pick him up again. Bud? Yeah, I think he wants to be exploring right now, because he's kind of like, what you doing? He's just the most chill little guy. Very rarely cares what's happening with him. Right now he's kind of wondering what I'm doing, but very open to love. And now I don't know what I would do without him, because I have fallen so head over heels with this little guy. And, we have a cat, too, and I've, this past year, people look at me like I'm crazy, and I just say, like, if you want something to cuddle, don't get a cat, get a beardie. Now, not all beardies are the same. Some beardies don't like to be touched because they weren't raised being handled. So if they're not raised being handled, they won't like to be cuddled. But he was raised being handled a lot, and he is just the sweetest, most cuddly thing. And he really wants to be exploring right now. Oh no, he stuck to my dress. Sorry, bud. So that's the story of, the kind of sad story of how Zeus came to us, and, sort of my little spiel about loving our reptile friends, and, why I think beardies are so unexpectedly great. The not really talked about perks of having a beardie, and he is about to attack the cat. He hates the cat. Yeah, that's the other thing, is their personality. He has such a great personality. But I've kind of been all over the place because I didn't script this video at all. Can you tell? So that was my bearded dragon Zeus. Maybe I'll make a video about my other pets too. Probably not the cat, because everyone has a cat and she hates me. But the feeling is mutual. I'm kidding, I love her. Anyways, so that's all for now. Please, if you're at all interested in the art world, my, dolls that I make are pretty cool too, I think. Some people think they're creepy, but whatever, each to their own. And, keep an eye out for more stuff about Zeus, because he just ran face first into the desk. No depth perception. Anyway, so please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and leave a thumbs up if you want to see more about Zeus.